This is Around the Globe with Dr. G. Good. I want to switch a little bit into the book of Acts. And if you recall, in Acts 17, verse 18, Paul met some philosophers, Stoic, Epicurean philosophers, and they called him a babbler. I mean,
They did.
as you and I know, Paul was not a lightweight as far as being an intellectual. He was a very learned
He was.
Man. And why do you think that these philosophers would almost insult him in such a way? What was behind that?
I can only surmise, but I think sometimes when people maybe feel that the authority that they think they have, or maybe the authority that they genuinely have, is being threatened, maybe by new teaching. The Stoics themselves were very learned. They took a great amount of their being through being knowledgeable, through being academic, and all of these things. And I wonder whether maybe they even were aware of Paul's learned upbringing. And therefore they might just have been looking at this guy as some new age thinker. And to accuse him of being a babbler, as you say, is a bit derogatory. Yeah. So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I know that they placed a great emphasis on learning themselves, and they held positions of authority. And when that's been challenged, people sometimes lash out. So I don't think he holds a grudge.
Yeah. I don't think so. Well, hey, Paul wrote over a third of the New Testament, yeah. And guess what? A lot of people are still combing through the epistles written by Paul.
Absolutely.
But that's a really good point.
The epistles still stand, even if the derogatory folk don't.
Oh, absolutely. They're long gone. Most people, if you ask them, well, what were the Stoic philosophers really talking about? Perhaps they're the babblers, because we don't know. Very good.
It might be unfair for me to comment.
Yeah, no comments. Now, again, going on to Paul's letters, particularly in First Corinthians, Second Corinthians, there are a number of issues that Paul brings up. He talks about marriage. He talks about communion. Talks about the gifts of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Which one of those issues would you like to comment on a bit?
Well, I think where Paul was coming from was he was quite rightly concerned on a number of areas, and these things are all interlinked. So I'm happy to focus on one, but for anyone who understands the book a little bit, they'll realise that this is the early church. It's got its foundations, but it's struggling. It's failing in its human weakness. So Paul is addressing a number of issues all the way across there. I think in terms of the morality of the people at the time, clearly it wasn't living up to expectations as set down. It's one of those things, I think, that when you're mixed up in yourselves again, going back to something I said earlier, when we're so engrossed with ourselves, our own pleasures, however they may come about, then you're inevitably going to be separated to a greater or lesser degree from your faith. So when we're consumed inwardly, we can't be looking outwardly. Yeah. And only when we're looking outwardly can we receive. So I think along with all of these different things, Paul was trying to say, look, you've got to get yourself in order first. And when you're in order with yourself, you can be in right relationship with God. And then these other things that he went on to talk about, they fall more easily into place. I think if you try and sort out some of the other bits and pieces, but you're still not at right with yourself, you're not at peace internally, you're not at peace with God, then trying to resolve the other bits, it is going to be much, much harder.
Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. It's interesting how you kind of surmised, even though they sound like a number of different issues that Paul was dealing with, but the fact that, yes, he was in an early church and in a society that was very unchristian. Obviously, they had many gods.
Yes.
Morality, as you said, was not quite the same as it ought to be as far as Christian morality goes. And so,
I think when people follow a number of gods, it takes away from the fact that they should be following one path. And it can therefore, oh, well, I'm not going to pray as much to this God today, I'll pray to that one. Or you're left trying to make up your own mind as to what to do and when to do it and why to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're focused on the fact that there is one God, then you can put all of your energies into being in right relationship there.
Well,
so again, when we're in good relationship with ourselves, it's easier then to be in good relations with everybody else and everything else.
Yeah, well said. Final question. Obviously, there's so many things going on in the world today. When I say so many things, we have issues of war, Gaza, Israel, Russia, Ukraine. We have famine in places that, even though people don't really talk about those places every day, but we know that there are many areas in this world where there's a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, a lot of tragedy. What would be your message? In essence, what I'm saying is that what would be, is there a message of hope amidst all these issues, war, famine, violence? What would be your message?
Oh, I don't think we've got long enough. However, what I tried to summarize by saying that many of the world's problems, be it environmental, be it political, be it aggressive, they're of humankind's making. That they're not God's. God does not create wars. God does not launch missiles from one territory into another territory. So these problems come about through humanity's weakness, people clinging to power, people seeking greater wealth, seeking more control, whether it's over currency or whether it's over land. That there is a hope, that there is an eternal hope, and peace doesn't always come in our own lifetime. This earth has been plagued by all sorts of things over the centuries, over the millennium, and probably for a while that thus it will continue. There is hope. There is hope for a brighter future, an eternal future. But sometimes there's pain in life as well. If we're in good relationship with ourselves and good relationship with God, we can call on His strength to try to help us through these darker times. We can pray for the likes of Mr. Putin and Mr. Netanyahu and Hamas and all the other people who are doing and inflicting wrongful actions on others. We can pray for them. Yeah. We can pray for a conversion of their minds and pray and make noise about it as much as we can do in peaceful format. Because sometimes things only change through a little bit of human pressure, as well as some good old-fashioned divine intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, there is eternal hope. There is eternal hope. Yeah. I really like that. And on that eternal hope, thank you so much, Reverend Dave. It's a great way to conclude a short time together. It's been a delight having you around the globe with Dr. G, and we hope to have you again, perhaps at another time.
Who knows?
You so much.
I'll keep my diary up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. G.
All right.